Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we are going to be doing predictions, as you can see by the screen. A little different predictions video, the final one of the year. It's for COD Champs, the biggest one of them all. And we're going to be doing a little different. This is the first time Kyle's going to be joining us for predictions. Obviously, we don't have like a third party to be a tiebreaker. If we end up disagreeing on like a certain prediction or something. So for what we're going to do for this one is just kind of like both probably offer our case for why, like, let's say the OpTic subliners match, we have a disagreement. I think OpTic, he thinks subliners. We'll kind of offer our case and just come to some understanding of who we're going to move on. So that way we can consistently predict the same bracket and we're not just both all over the place. And we're also going to be making predictions based on the fact that everybody's playing. So Scump and Envoy, obviously, there's question marks about them being playing. We're just going to assume for the sake of the video and predictions that everyone's playing because I think that's the best way to do it. But Kyle, how you doing?
Ryan, I'm doing great today. Really looking forward to seeing a LAN champs, and the biggest tournament of the year. Unfortunately, we don't have all 12 teams, but that's a debate for a different day. But yeah, just
Off-season
super,
pod.
super excited to see what the vibes are like, and hopefully we have a great tournament ahead.
I think we do. I think we will. As long as, hopefully that's like the first news topic. We only have maybe one to get into today, but that's what we could real quick talk about before we get into the nitty gritty of predictions. Is obviously, I believe it was like yesterday, CDL Intel mentioned that Scump and Envoy still are testing positive for COVID, and they have to test negative by Thursday in order to play. Any thoughts on that? I don't think there's any other players that they've said that are actually supposed to be at champs that have been testing positive. I think Methods was one, but that's more of a risk if other players in Ultra obviously end up testing positive because he's their sub.
Yeah, I really don't have anything much to add to it. Just that it's hard to imagine a world where they would go ahead with a tournament without Scump or Envoy, especially Scump.
Yeah, the headliner of the CDL.
And I mean, it like CDL Intel linked to a clip of Scump's stream where Scump was like visibly frustrated. He's like, I feel fine, but I'm still testing positive. And, there's all this, we're not going to go into all the science of like how long you can still test positive for, but it seems like, there should be some common sense here. But,
Yeah.
I guess from all the information we know, we just have to cross our fingers and hope that he has a negative, or I guess maybe one or two consecutive negative test results. I'm not exactly sure what the protocols are for the players, but yeah, still something just keep your eye on the timeline, I guess.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. Obviously, not just for Scump and Envoy, but every single team. I don't think anybody, especially us two, and we don't want to see any team playing shorthanded because, I mean, I want to watch entertaining matches. I'm not really that concerned with who wins. I want to watch a lot of good COD, and I don't want to watch Sender in general be forced to play against the subliners because, General, good player, but he's not a part of this roster. Normally, in Sender, obviously, the coach probably hasn't really touched the game much this year. You just don't want to see a champs ruined by everybody not having their full roster. It's just not the way. And also, you'd be, gut wrench for the players to work all year for the big one and earn their way into it and then not be able to play. Just super unfortunate situation. So I hope they're both back. Otherwise, there may be a world where they have to delay it. But we're just going to act like for this one, they're not going to be out. We're going to say Scump and Envoy are in. All the players are in. So we can get right into it. I think you want to start in winners bracket right away on the top, and then just work our way down to losers as much as we can, and then go back up to winners. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
All right, so we'll start right in the top of winners round one. We've got OpTic for subliners, and this one's kind of interesting to me because, if there was no Clay, I'd for sure be saying like a no doubt like 3-0, 3-1 OpTic, but I think it gets a little more competitive. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think with Clay in, and the X factor of we don't know how good they're playing right now with Clay because they haven't played with him for a little bit. I think that makes it a little more interesting.
Yeah, this kind of harkens back to what we were talking about in the previous episode with like what the vibes are going to be like when Clay comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe maybe they were just a little bit immature on the timeline when it all first happened. It was literally like a few minutes after Clay left, and Asim was like spouting off on the flank and stuff. So, maybe it is that subliners are, back and playing better than ever. I don't think we're getting too much intel on like what's happening with scrims.
No.
But my gut is leaning to OpTic, and that's what I think I'm gonna lean with OpTic there in a 3-1.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with the OpTic pick for sure. Um, like I said, I think it definitely gets more competitive with Clay in. And it's like I know I want to pick OpTic because I do think they're the better team, but it's also that like back of your mind thing. Like Clay's a back-to-back champ going for a three-peat. Like it's Clay, he's gonna find a way to work some magic. Like it wouldn't shock me if he finds his way to work some random magic out of nowhere and somehow beats OpTic and knocks them down. But I'm gonna agree with you, and I would maybe say OpTic 3-2, but I like the 3-1 pick. So I think if you're good with 3-1, we can go 3-1.
Yeah. One more thought I had is like I feel like if subliners are gonna pull that match off, it would be more so because OpTic comes out flat and they just like
I
maybe they
agree.
go down, maybe they lose the first two maps and then all of a sudden they're facing, an elimination on a control or something. So
Yeah.
um my 3-1 is more predicated on OpTic like coming out guns blazing.
Yeah. I think to me, like the 3-1, the way I see it going is OpTic takes the hard point, subliners take the search, and then OpTic wins it through 3 respawns. I think that's the way I'd see it happening. Although subliners are a very, very good hardpoint team, so maybe not. But I think it gets really interesting if subliners take map 1. Because we know OpTic's search can be good at times, it can be really shaky. So if subliners come out and win the map 1, I think it gets really interesting and scary for OpTic. Because I think the series honestly in Search and Destroy is kind of a toss up. Like I can see either team winning the searches. I'm just banking on the fact that subliners respawn has gone down maybe a little bit since they haven't been practicing with Clay as much, and OpTic can win respawns. But I don't know if you agree, but I think if subliners win that first map, it could get really, really scary for OpTic.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to see OpTic having to fight from behind. I feel like just as like throughout this title, we've seen them kind of have to fight an uphill battle sometimes, and maybe that's been the reason why they've fallen short of
Hmm.
winning a major. But yeah, I don't know, something to me feels like we saw them start to play really well at the last major, and then that last series from Formal just kind of did them in. But we really started to see like Envoy start to play more cohesively. Scump was definitely like having one of the best events of the season.
Hmm.
And then Dashy was doing his thing.
Yeah,
So
it seems to me too that like this year, OpTic always finds himself in the winners bracket except for like the one tournament, and they always seem to lose like their first match. Like they always knock themselves in early. So like maybe that could give them a chance to make a good run in this tournament if they can win that first winners match finally and kind of get it rolling and not being losers right away, backs against the wall. But we're going 3-1 OpTic. I moved him on. So I think we can move on to the next match here in winners. We
yeah,
got
so
Dallas. What?
yeah, no, yeah, I was gonna say let's get on to the next one.
All right, Dallas, Minnesota. This one, I think you probably agree, much more of a toss up in my eyes. Um, because you've got Dallas, who they may have struggled a little bit at the last land. Like, it wasn't the best shots he had in off series, but they're defending champs. They have Mr. Three Rings, also another Three Rings member in Crim on the team, a guy that you can never count out at champs. Even if his team looks bad coming in, like Dallas doesn't look great, but I can see a world where they win it because they have Crim. Um, but Minnesota, a little bit ago, we probably would have said, this is an easy Dallas win, but Minnesota pulls off the impossible reverse sweep in the last one. Um, and they win the tournament. So it makes it a lot tougher. You want to go first on this one? Where your head's at?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, this screams a 3-2.
Yeah,
But I just can't pick which way it's gonna go. The recency bias of Rocker's success is definitely weighing heavily on me. Um, but like last year, when everybody thought that Faze was gonna march through and win the finals, and then Dallas just comes out of nowhere. I mean, they didn't come out of nowhere, but they really stepped their game up for champs last year.
yeah,
Part of me feels like Dallas just has some like ace up their sleeve, or they're just gonna come out and play flawless.
yep.
Oh man, but 3-2. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Rocker, but I don't feel good about it.
I am on kind of the same wavelength as you. I really think this has potential to be the best series of round one, like in terms of losers bracket, elimination round one, and winners round one. I think this has the potential to be the best series of that round because once again, like you said, recency bias is telling you to pick Minnesota, and I'm not a big recency bias person. I always talk about it. I'm not big on it. It's hard not to buy into it sometimes, but I try not to as much as possible. And once again, Dallas has Krim. It's tough to pick him, but the reason I think I kind of agree with you and want to go 3-2 Minnesota is because of the search and destroy factor. Obviously, Game 5 is a search and destroy, and I just think Minnesota is a better search team than Dallas. I mean, Dallas is maybe better in the respawns, but we saw Minnesota's guns heating up and Standy look like a superstar in respawns. I just don't. I'm just not confident in him, but I think I agree with you with the 3-2 Minnesota. I think I'm going to put that in 3-2 Minnesota. I don't know if you feel the same way. I honestly think it really comes down to the search and destroy. I just think Minnesota is a better search team. So if we're thinking it's a game 5, that makes me want to pick Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it being like a 2-3-5 win for Minnesota, where Dallas takes both hard points
Yeah.
potentially. I feel like we've seen teams like Minnesota, scrape through series like that. They rely on their control and then their prowess in search. I definitely, I'm kind of talking myself into that scenario right now.
Yeah. I also think that if Dallas wins, I think maybe it might be a 4-game series. Like Dallas like sweeps the respawns or something. I just don't have much confidence in them winning a game 5 against Rocker because I do think Rocker and maybe Ultra are probably the two best search teams in the game. I think they're like 1A, 1B.
Mhm.
And probably Faze is up there on that next tier, and maybe with Empire might be on the next tier. But I think Rocker and Ultra are kind of a tier above everyone, at least coming into the tournament in Search and Destroy. We know how quickly the good Search and Destroy teams can change because a lot of times you can study up on film, and Empire is one of those teams that's good at studying up on the film. But I don't know. I think I agree, and I think I lean Minnesota 3-2. I got that filled in, unless you convince yourself otherwise and think you want to go Empire.
No, I'm gonna stick with the guns there, but I mean, don't be surprised if that's a bracket buster.
Oh yeah, that's gonna screw up some people's brackets because some people, and I can see why they would. People are gonna pick Empire to go to the winners final. There's people that are gonna pick Rocker to go to the winners final, and it's not a bad pick. Like I can see a world where it happens. So that is gonna mess up some brackets if you get that one wrong because there's a realistic world where both of these teams could be in the grand final from winners. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
So this is gonna screw up some brackets, but move on down. So we picked OpTic. And Minnesota to move on. We can move down to our losers bracket here. First matchup on the losers bracket is New York versus Florida. Florida has to play their boogeymen from the last couple events. They got reverse swept by New York in Major 4 and 5, I believe, to get knocked out of the tournament. So obviously, probably not the team they want to see right away. But this match, I believe, this match will happen on Thursday. So Subliners will be playing their second match of the day, if that makes a difference to you. Whereas Florida will be playing their first. I can go first on this one if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like I'm picking Florida if Clay wasn't playing, but Clay is playing. I don't think there's a way that Clay gets double first rounded at champs. I think the chemistry is going to kind of be there because regardless of if maybe they don't see eye to eye as people, I think they're going to realize, we got a job to do. We're a team that has potential to make a run here. I mean, they've made a run to a finals. They were a top 3, top 4 team for pretty much the entire year with that roster, especially once Hydra joined. So I think I want to go New York. And this has a game 5 written on it to me. I mean, the last 2 times these teams have played at the majors, it went game 5. Both times Florida was up 2-0. I think Florida or New York will come out swinging a little more at the beginning of the series, probably split it 1-1. Obviously, split those next 2 maps. I think I see a world where it's like a New York take the hard points and the control. Florida take that search. Florida clutches up in the mat 4 hard point to force a game 5. I think I lean on the veteran Clay to win a mat 5. So I think I'd go New York 3-2.
Yeah, I'm leaning the same direction. You know, like we said, Florida's been one of the big disappointments of the season based on the talent that they have on the team. They just kind of lacked that second sub. They had slacked and then they tried they tried to bring Havoc back in. But I definitely think Subliners is winning this. I have it in a 3-1.
Okay.
I could see Mutineers taking the search and then Subliners just taking 3 respawns.
Yeah, that's definitely realistic.
But
I don't know
you know,
which way we want to go.
I mean, I'm willing to take it to a 3-2 just because it is champs. I'll cede that to you. But I mean,
Okay.
it feels like 3-1 is such a popular way to go with
Yeah.
any match that, and it rarely happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a 3-2.
Okay. Yeah, 3-1 is that weird middle ground that you always seem to pick because it's like, I think the team's good enough to make it competitive, so not 3-0, but I don't really think they can win, so not 3-2, and it's like that weird middle ground, it never seems to happen, you're right. It always seems to be 3-2 or 3-0.
Yeah,
Um,
it's such a fence sitter pick.
yeah. I think yeah, 3-2 is good for me with New York. You go with that one, then we can move on to
Yep,
Empire Thieves.
I mean,
Um,
sounds good to me.
so this is one we talked a little bit about before we hit the record button, that this bottom little section, um of champs is just brutal to me because Empire and Rocker, I think, are both contenders. I think you'd agree, both contenders to actually win it all. There's a chance that they could both win it. And then Thieves, maybe not necessarily a team that we believe can win, but I think, at least for me, I believe they can make some noise.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
where do you want to go with it?
I definitely want to. It's hard to see Dallas getting double first rounded, especially on the same day.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I kind of went bold here and I picked Dallas in the 3-0. I just feel like they could come out swinging really hot. Thieves, obviously wouldn't have played a match at all on that first day until this one. Dallas will come in pissed off. Um, yeah, I took it in a 3-0, and I know, Slasher getting elimed first round at champs isn't really a popular opinion, but
Yeah.
and Kenny obviously as well. I just don't think I think Thieves is kind of in that same boat with Mutineers where they just kind of like, they were just treading water all year. They did just enough to make it into champs, and that was also due in part to the bottom 4 teams just being so pitiful. Um,
Yeah.
but they did the bare minimum to get in. I don't think this was their year. I think a fair amount of the players will be. They already have their minds on Vanguard, so I think Empire, stands a really good chance to win this match.
Yeah. For our podcast picks, I think I'm willing to go Empire. I might want to give Thieves like a map or two because if I'm making personal picks, I think I might pick Thieves here. Once again, it's tough to ever see. I mean, it's for both these teams. There's 8 teams at champs. There's a lot of good players. It's tough to see a world where Slasher, Kenny, even a guy like John, he's a world champs MVP. Um, it's hard to see a world where he's eliminated early. But on the other side of it, you've got Shotzi, last year's MVP. You've got Crim6, the GOAT. It's hard to see them eliminated double. Like, that's just the nature of the beast with the CDL the way it is now, where you've got just only 8 teams that make champs instead of the old 32. So some good teams have to be eliminated right away. Um, so I think I'm willing to go Empire with you here. Are you willing to go 3-1? Give Thieves a map?
Yeah, I'll give Thieves a map. Just out of respect. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll sub Hook or TJ Haley in for a map. You never know.
I think I actually really like. I'm good to go with Empire because it's definitely the safer and probably more smarter pick. And personally, I think regardless who wins this is going to lose to the loser of OpTic versus Faze, which is why I'm probably more willing to concede to Dallas. But I don't know. That's kind of my take here for an interesting one. Is I really think these have a chance to make a run because I mean, John hasn't played at champ since BO4. I don't think they placed great because LG had like a weird roster at the time with a lot of like arguments and like just turmoil within the team. But I mean, in IW, he finished second after the year before in BO3 finishing first. Like the dude finds a way to find top 4 at champs like every year. So does Slasher. Even last year, Slasher almost found a way to make top 4 if TJ Guns Envoy instead of the other way around. OpTic would have been playing on LA OpTic from last year would have been playing on that final champs weekend, but obviously they
Right.
don't. So I don't know. I just think there's a world where Thieves win this, but I am willing to go Empire because I think Empire is probably the more logical and more likely pick to happen. But that's kind of like my call out for the tournament here is I think Thieves have a really, really good chance to make some noise down here. I think there's a good chance they win. But I agree. We can go Empire. I marked them down for a 3-1. So we can move back up to the top, I think, if you're good with that.
Yep.
All right. So back at the top here. Start right at the top again. Of the winner's side. Got Atlanta Faze versus OpTic. This match probably won't end up happening because OpTic and Faze never seem to play each other in the big tournament. So somehow Subliners will probably beat them or something, and we'll get robbed of the chance to watch Faze versus OpTic. But in our bracket, we've got it happening. So who you got in this one? This is a tough one.
Oh man, this is really like how much stock do you put into Faze's performance throughout the year? Because they were just so disappointing at Major 5, and you have to take that into account, I guess. But also just like the veteran leadership from Arcitys and Crowder, and just how he seemed to step up and play flawlessly when they need to. And they're going to show up for a big match. They're going to have, the crowd's going to be, 95% against them.
Yeah.
It would seem like in this match. So I'm dude, I'm really leaning to Faze just based on what we've seen them play throughout the entire year. But I could see OpTic pulling it out with the crowd support. But I'm gonna take Faze in a 3-2 here.
Okay. Yeah, this is the one where I definitely once again feel like Faze is the smart pick. Because body of work over the whole year, obviously they've been a better team than OpTic all year, but this is where the whole recency thing comes in, just like with Minnesota. Faze obviously double first round in the last tournament. And we don't even see them win a single match, obviously, and they lose to Surge, which looks bad. And OpTic, once again, don't make the finals or anything, but I feel like we saw an OpTic team that we started to have more confidence in. I think you'd agree with that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean OpTic was, I think all of the players said that they were so excited to get back in front of fans. I think that played a huge role in their psychological outlook on the tournament. And they were definitely playing with a lot more teamwork. But at the end of the day, we haven't seen OpTic step up and win the big match when it matters, either to get to a grand final or whatever.
Yeah.
They just haven't proven that last 5%. They're 95% of the way there to being a lock for a top 2 team, but they just haven't won that last big match. So that's why I'm more leaning Faze, but I really want to buy into the OpTic hype, and I want to be a bandwagon Greenwaller here, but for me, I just have to lean Faze here.
Yeah. The only thing for me is I think this is such a big match because I think if OpTic finds a way to win this, which I think we both think is a possibility, like a realistic possibility, I think this is almost a match of the tournament where they carry this and they win the tournament if they win this match, unless they've faced their ultimate rival that they can never get past in the next round here in Ultra. To me, it's if they get to this next match and Ultra aren't there, I think OpTic's winning the tournament because Ultra are kind of their boogeyman. They can't seem to get past them. They always seem to get eliminated by him and beat by him. So if it finds a way to be like a Minnesota versus OpTic winners final, I think OpTic's probably going to take that and be in the grand finals. But yeah, your Faze 3-2 pick, I really think I'm leaning OpTic 3-2 here because I just don't buy into the Faze hype as much as I used to. I still think they're probably the favorite to win this tournament and definitely can see them winning this match. But there's just something about OpTic lately that makes me think they have a chance to win this. But I think I'm willing to concede a Faze 3-2.
No, I wanna. I'm very easily swayed to the OpTic side here. I really want to go OpTic and ride that out.
If you're willing to do it, we can go 3-2 because this is a toss-up series.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3-2. I'll come over to your side. I'll go 3-2 OpTic.
All right, we'll put it in. The thing is, it's champs and just it never goes. I don't know if any of you remember my prediction video from last year, but I picked London to make top 4 in MW, and I think everybody thought I was crazy. And London made top 4. They did it. Champs never goes the way you think it is. The typical way to pick this would be an Ultra Phase winners final. and then OpTic Empire play to go to the losers final, and your top 4 is exactly who you think your top 4 is. But Champs just doesn't work that way. As much as you always think it could, it never ends up being the top 4 teams make the top 4. Like there's always somebody weird that makes it. Not saying Faze is just not going to make top 4 or something, but I don't know. If you're buying in, we can go OpTic 3-2. I marked it down.
I'll buy in.
All right. It's once again probably about a 1% confidence pick because Faze has been so good, but this is what made Champs more interesting is the fact that Faze has looked so vulnerable. Otherwise, we were picking them to win every tournament like the whole year pretty much. But we'll move on. We picked OpTic. We don't have a lot of confidence in it, I don't think, but there's just something about them. They definitely are a team that we're viewing on the upswing right now, and Faze is a team that we're viewing with a lot more question marks than we thought initially.
Well, and you know what? Like OpTic would come into this match having played a match the day before. Faze is kind of stone cold, like having gotten eliminated so early at the previous major. Like all they'll have is like a scrim under their belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So OpTic could come in rolling, especially if they come in, beating subliners like pretty handily. Or in a convincing fashion, playing good Call of Duty, and they come into this Faze match, I could definitely see them just carrying that momentum through.
Yeah, we'll roll with it. It's gonna make predictions weird with Faze down in the bottom, but we'll roll with it. We've got Ultra versus Rocker now. Battle of the North again. Obviously, talk about demons to slay. Ultra's got a demon to slay here in the team that just reverse swept them.
Oh yeah,
in the winners final. But I mean, this is like another just awesome match because the way Rocker played, and hopefully they're playing as good as they did in the last major. And I mean, Ultra, talk about Faze being a consistent team. I mean, since the Insight move and Major 2, I think you've got to say Ultra has been the team right there with Faze that's been consistently your second best team pretty much the whole way through since Insight was picked up almost.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Just the we like to talk about the body of work throughout the regular season, and they were able to overtake subliners for the second place and really cement themselves to get that number 2 seed behind Faze. And just their consistent performance throughout all the stages. I think you'd be foolish to not put them in your top 2 teams in the power rankings.
Yeah.
But
so does that mean you're leaning Ultra?
Yeah, this match I'm gonna say they come back and exercise some demons. It might be there might be some exorcism performed on the stage. The Battle of the North. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Rocker might be a little bit too hungover from, they might have expended all of their mojo winning Major 5, and they might not be able to get over they might not be able to slay Ultra a second time, especially if it's just a best of, a best of 5 here. So I'm gonna lean Ultra here in a 3-1.
Yep, I think I'm on the exact same page. I think Ultra 3-1. There's always that 3-0 and it's hard to pick, but I respect Minnesota too much to go here. But I do think it's another one of those situations. If this goes to a long series map 5, I think I do lean Minnesota. Because I think it gets that map 5. Ultra maybe gets in the back of their head that, oh god, here we go again, last map with this team.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think probably the top 2 search teams in the league. So a map 5 would be just great entertainment for my own fan purposes. I hope this goes map 5. And I think if it does, it's Rocker winning it. But I'm gonna agree. I think it only goes 4, and I think Ultra win it. I do think still, regardless of what happened last tournament, I still think Ultra are the better team. And it's scary for them if it goes map 5 because of the mental aspect and even the gameplay aspect. So I'm gonna agree with you and say Ultra win 3-1 because I really think they're a team we have to put some respect on. I mean, we saw last tournament they were up 4-0 in the finals, absolutely smoking Minnesota. You got to count for something the fact that they were up 4-0 on the champs. Like that's got to count for something. I think they kind of, like you said, slay the demon here, and I think they win at 3-1. So I got to mark down if you want to move to the elimination side.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that match. Let's go ahead and go down to Elim.
All right, first one down here, we've got New York versus Minnesota. Which probably got more entertaining with Clay back now, because once again, probably would have been kind of a snooze fest without Clay. But we've got Minnesota versus New York. Attach playing his old team. and his old teammate in Clay. What do you think happens here? I think I think Minnesota is the team I lean towards here. I think this could be a potential where you could throw your 3-0 on, but I also think subliners with Clay is a little more respectable, so I can see a world where this series ends up being pretty close.
Yeah, this is really how like we said, how much you buy into Clay being back and like them not being too tilted from being bumped down to elimination. Um, so I'm gonna lean Rocker in a 3-1. I'll give subliners a map out of respect, but I think this is where the subliners come to an end here. I feel like Rocker will have a little bit more composure to regain from the loss earlier in the day to Ultra. It's the nightcap match. I feel like they'll come out and be pretty convincing. So a 3-1 sounds about right to me.
Yeah, I marked it down 3-1 Rocker. I think I agree with that. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like the subliners are just the weirdest team to predict in this tournament. Um, because like you've got Faze, we know they're like a great team. You've got OpTic, same thing. We know they're a very good team. Ultra, Rocker, Empire. We all know that those 5 teams for sure. We can see a world where they get hot, they make the right run, and they win it all. Then you've got your Florida and your Thieves, who they have enough talent that if they come right and maybe teams are off, you could see them making a little run. Maybe not super long, but you could see them winning a couple series. And then subliners are just the weird one. Like they have a super tough bracket. If they beat OpTic, they play Faze. Like tough draw. They looked kind of poor recently, haven't had Clay. But when they had Clay, they were a team that we thought could win an event. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about them, but they're just
Yeah,
like such a weird team. I don't know.
yeah. I feel like subliners kind of show up to this tournament like like I'm gonna use a weird metaphor, but they get to a bar and they realize the cover is $20 to get in, and they only have $15 in their pocket.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a little bit awkward for them. They had that fall off, after major three, and then obviously with Clay stepping out for the last major. They're trying to pick up the pieces. I feel like maybe I'm just creating this narrative in my head, and everything is you know milk and honey over at the subliners camp.
Yeah.
But I just feel like you know this is yeah, I definitely agree that it's a really they're a really weird team to predict at this major.
Yeah. And maybe Asim and Clay and the whole subliners can. Maybe Clay really just did need a break and they played the on us acting like they didn't get along because everybody overlooks them. That'd be a Clay thing to do. Some really weird thing. Um, and if there's any player that can pick up the pieces, we've seen it a million times. If there's one player that can pick up the pieces and just get everything squared away and win a world championship, it's probably Clayster. So we'll see what happens. I think I agree though. Minnesota 3-1. But wouldn't be surprised if New York finds a way to get this one done somehow and Clay just keeps on kicking because he always seems to.
Hmm.
All right. Then we've got an absolute grueler of an elimination round 2 match. One of these teams will finish top 6, and that's FaZe and Empire. Two teams that, once again, like we've said, we both believe could win this tournament. But one of them's going out top 6. This is last year's grand final match. And it happens in elimination round 2. So where are you leaning? FaZe, Empire.
Oh man, Faze Empire. This is like El Clasico without
Yeah.
OpTic.
Yeah.
E Clasico, should say. Um, you know what? I just don't have. I feel like the 4 players of Faze are better than the 4 players of Empire. Um, so I'm gonna lean to Faze pulling this out. I'm gonna take it all the way to a game 5. I'll give Faze a 3-2 win. Uh, I just feel like Empire kind of falls short in the S&D category, and their respawn has been a little bit shaky, especially like last major, and we're kind of going on. It doesn't matter what you did in majors 1 through 4. We're kind of how are you playing right now? And
Yeah.
I feel like Empire. They had a roster move with obviously having to move Hook out, and so it kind of threw a wrench into their like grand plans. But yeah, I mean, all credit to FaZe. I don't think they're going to be a top 6 team. I think they're going to be better than that. So that kind of is my reasoning there.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on this one. I don't have a whole lot to add. I think you kind of covered a lot of my thoughts, and I already kind of said that I thought Empire Thieves didn't matter who won because I think they're gonna lose to OpTic or Faze, whoever fell down. So I kind of already gave my prediction away in picking Faze, and I'll agree with you 3-2. I'll move them through 3-2. I just think, like you said, Faze have been way too good all year to end up being a top six double first rounded elimination in this case for them because it'd be back to back series losses again. And that means also this year's best team in the game. I mean, I think there's no doubt about it. Unless they like bow out super early, they're the best team in the game this year. You don't win 3 majors. 60% of the majors this year they've won. Like you're the best team in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just hard to see a world where they're double first round, and that would also mean that they lost 4 straight series to end the year, um, because they lost those 2 last tournaments. So at the last 2 lands, if they lost 4 straight, the dynasty talk would obviously be completely and utterly over for this team, unless they stick together for 4 more years and win the next 4 champs. But the dynasty from Cold War to whatever game would be over, it'd have to start in the next game. I still think there's a world where if they finish like second, you can continue the dynasty talk, but I mean, a win from here would mark it. But I think it's tough to say they're going to get double first rounded again. So I'll agree with you, and we'll move on, and then we can move on to Minnesota versus Faze here. We'll do the next elimination match before we go back up to winners. So Minnesota Faze. Another rematch that we saw at the last tournament where Minnesota beat them. I believe it was a 3-1 in that winners round one.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I just said, I don't see a world where Faze marches out of the tournament in top 6. I don't think they march out in top 4 either. I think the kind of honeymoon period here of Rocker making some crazy runs ends. I want to go bold and say this is the first 3-0 of the tournament. I think I'm going to say a 3-0 Faze. I think they wake up with a momentum game 5. Like I think they win maybe against Empire in like a game 5, round 10 or round 11, and that kind of wakes them up like, let's go. We got out of this slump that we were in, and they're hyped to go. And I think Rocker runs into an absolute buzzsaw Faze. I think I want to go 3-0 Faze.
Wow, 3-0 Faze. That sounds bold, and I like it. I'm gonna give Rocker a map though. I definitely agree that Faze is this buzzsaw team. They have the 2 best sub SMGs, the best flex in the game. I mean, we're kind of. I feel like it's really easy to just like, oh, well, Faze is struggling, but I feel like they have to pull the pieces together. Um, and like I said, I feel like Rocker did. I do feel like they expended a lot of their mojo winning Major 5, and if they were somehow able to bop Faze out of the tournament, I think we would like definitely have to put them like a top 3 team in the game, doing it twice in a row,
Yeah.
especially like with the gravity of the situation. Yeah, I want to give Rocker a map here, but obviously I'm gonna take Faze. I have them in a 3-1.
I'm willing to go 3-1 because I think 3-0 is really bold. It's just, I know for a fact we have a lot of 3-1s and 3-2s, and some of these are 3-0s. It always happens that way. But I'm willing to go Faze 3-1. I'll mark it down. I also think something worth noting as well is, I mean, Cellium, Simp and Abezy were all obviously together last year in MW. They lost the final in a very tough fashion because they kind of got smoked last year in the final. Like a
They
tough way to
did.
lose. And obviously that could like hurt chemistry of a team, but those 3 stick together. They seem to all get along very well. I mean, Arcitys, Simp, and Abezy have won a world championship together, and they seem to get along the whole season. Clearly, they got along well enough because they wanted to play with each other again. Um, so it's like a situation where I don't know what you think, but I don't see this being a team that really like loses composure and like gets mad at each other. Like I feel like after the last major, they're like, you know what, guys, we kind of had a bad major, but I feel like the chemistry, I feel like they're still vibing. I think they're good. I don't think this is like a team that is necessarily going to get real like down on each other. And I think maybe coming into this tournament, their confidence is a little hurt, and that's why we had them losing to OpTic. But then I think, like I said, I think that Empire match is going to be a trigger, like lighten a match, throwing it on some gasoline for them. I think it's going to be like Simp and Abezy wake up after that, and they turn into the 2 best players in the world, like we know they are. And they start frying. I think it kind of sets them on fire. And um, I think that's why we have them beating Rocker and moving to the elimination final. And I think we're truly left with our top 3 teams then, because we can go on to this next one. OpTic versus who's kind of been their boogeyman this year in Ultra, the team that always seems to have their number, even though it always seems to go game 5 or really close. Ultra seems to always beat OpTic, but where are you thinking on this one?
I feel like if OpTic carries that Faze match from winners round 2, it's hard to see them, losing full in a winners final. But Ultra has just been so good. I'm gonna have to take Ultra 3. I'm gonna take Ultra 3-1 here in the winners final. I just think
Yeah.
that, you know, especially up against Faze right there in the last match, I feel like OpTic has to spend a lot of energy. They have to. I don't know. I do believe there's kind of like a mental gas tank in this event, and I feel like you have to burn a lot of fuel in that last match, and I feel like Ultra might just carry this match, especially if they only have, it's a best of 5. They only have to win 3 maps. I just feel like Ultra has a much deeper map pool. And this is the first time I'm bringing up map pools, but I feel like Ultra just has a lot more comfort on, a deeper set of maps. I don't think the vetoes are going to affect them as much. Um, Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'll take Ultra 3-1 here.
I really think you're probably right. I do think it's going to be Ultra. I'm going to agree with you, and I don't mind a 3-1. The weird thing to me, though, is like this just seems so storybook for OpTic the way it could go because, like, I'm scrolling over here in the bracket, and it's like the only thing that could make it more storybook is if they played like Empire Rocker in round 1 because, like, they could, like, slay the Crim 6 demon, get him out of the way, or the attached demon, the guy that always clutches up against them. Like, or I mean, even if you want to say the accuracy demon, even though he's not playing the 3 piece that he had earlier in the tournament, like, but they're still playing Clay, a guy who always seems to have their number and be able to beat them. Like, they go from a team where they play Clay, and then if we have them winning that, then they beat Faze, the team that they really haven't been able to beat this year. And then they go to their boogeyman Ultra, who they haven't been able to beat. It seems to me it's like if OpTic wins this match, I think they're winning the tournament. I don't think that Scump and Formal are allowing them to lose from the winner's side, although there isn't as much of an advantage anymore. I don't know if you feel the same way, but if OpTic win this match, I believe they're winning the tournament. Um,
Oh yeah, I would if they were to somehow go through the winner's side, uh, unscathed. Obviously, I would definitely take them to, you
yeah.
know, Scump and Formal to win that second ring.
It seems so storybook, and I'm such a storylines driven person. I love when things like storybook storylines all happen, but instead of kind of using like what I want to see happen and like the storylines that could be like a Phase OpTic final, I think we're gonna have a Phase OpTic losers final instead. I'm gonna agree with you, and I don't mind the 3-1. I think I'm gonna go with that as well. I'm picking Ultra to win this too. I think a lot of people like it's hard to say they're buying too much into like the reverse sweep because you obviously have to give it some thought. Like they were just up 4-0 in a tournament and blew that. Like we can't just brush by that. But like you also have to think of the like cutoff at that 4-0. They were up 4-0 in a final. Like that's pretty crazy. Like clearly Rocker are a very, very good team, and Ultra was like handing them the business up 4-0 in that final. Like Ultra's a very good team as long as they don't let this affect them mentally, which it seems like Bance is a very good leader. Like it seems like he honestly is one of the most underrated like leaders. I saw something on Reddit from like a Zuma clip or something where somebody was comparing Bance to Karma in terms of like the style he plays with the team and like his leadership. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I kind of think like I see the comparison, like gameplay wise, whatever. Like Karma obviously has a lot more accolades, but like Bance with his whole meditation and kind of calming nature and like the way he makes all the dirty plays, so his 3 superstars can do everything. Like kind of has like that weird like Karma comparison, I think, and I think that's gonna help them a lot. Like his leadership, calming them down and like realizing like, hey, we blew this last one, but at least we were there. And like I don't know what you feel about that Karma comparison.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Yeah, I kind of go back to, before they won Major 2, and then, after they did win, Bance came out and was like, "Hey, I texted my girlfriend I was about to retire, or like, just step down from the team because we were just so ass." Um, and then he's like, I don't know, it just really made me appreciate Bance because, we I feel like he was a really easy player to rag on
Oh, I
because
did it.
yeah, just because of like he wasn't putting up numbers and they weren't winning. Um, and he kind of like you said, he does make those dirty plays, and he does what's necessary for the team that we don't really get to see a lot of his like behind the scenes stuff.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you have to win a few more rings to get to the karma comparison,
Oh,
but
for sure.
I
Yeah.
definitely can appreciate that.
Yeah, I just think it's like one of those like mentality type things. Like obviously Karma is more accomplished and probably always will be because that's not a knock on Bance either. It takes a lot to win 3 freaking rings. So like there's probably no world where Bance ever gets to Karma's accomplishments. But it just reminds me like not saying this team is anywhere close to the OpTic Dynasty, but it kind of reminds me of the same thing. Like Karma was and always was a superstar, but the role he played on that OpTic Dynasty team, he didn't have to be the superstar. He kind of let Scump and Formal and even at times Crim fly around and be the superstars in those jetpack titles, and he did the dirty work, which is kind of almost what Bance is doing. Like he's doing the dirty work, still putting up good numbers like Karma did, but letting his superstars and Cammy and Kleenex and Insight kind of just fly around and do it all. So like that's kind of where I see the comparison too, is he's just kind of doing the dirty work with 3 superstars. And like I said, the only way I see Ultra losing this is if once again OpTic's got the momentum, Champ Scump comes out and dominates. And maybe Ultra's in their own head, but I don't think they're going to be. So we're moving them on, and we're moving down to the elimination final, and we got a rematch from earlier in the tournament. OpTic versus Faze. Obviously, in the last one, we both had 3-2s. I pick OpTic, you pick Faze, but you decided to come over to this side. Do you think it happens again, or do you think Faze keeps the momentum rolling and wins their 3rd losers match?
Oh, this is so hard. This will be obviously this is all on Saturday.
Yeah.
Faze v OpTic. OpTic comes down from I don't know. They come down from winners final. Oh man,
Yeah. Both teams are in their 2nd match of the day.
Right. I'm gonna take Faze, and I'm gonna take 3-2. I just think they flipped the script.
Yeah.
From earlier. I just this is another like I feel like every pick in this bracket is a bracket buster potential just because of like the caliber of teams that we have here. I don't really have a good rhyme or reason for why I think that OpTic will drop this one, but I just have a little bit more confidence in Faze. And like I said, OpTic is 95% of the way from being there, but they're just missing that last 5%, and I feel like this is the last 5%. To get to the championship, best of 9. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're gonna see the usual suspects back in the championship, and I don't feel like OpTic fits the bill.
One interesting thing to note, you talked about flipping the script. They would definitely be flipping the script if they won this because I saw a stat in this. I believe it's true. Every single team that or every tournament this year, 5 majors, the winners final has been the matchup in the final. Which is something interesting to know. The team that gets knocked down from the winners final has made the final every time. The team that won that elimination round 3 match has never made the final. Which I thought's kind of interesting because like that kind of destroys the narrative of the whole like the team playing more matches ends up like making it because they have the momentum, like we always say with the finals. Like that losers team seems to have the advantage, which I definitely think is true. But typically in the tournaments, the team was waiting in elimination final, and then the other team got to play a match before and then play them. But that's 5 tournaments this year where the team that lost in the winners final ended up actually moving on, which is interesting to note because in that case, that means based on history of this year, we'd think OpTic has the advantage. But I'm going to agree with you here. I'm going to say Faze win at 3-2. Obviously, in terms of storylines, it'd be pretty good to see OpTic in the final. It'd be good for the CDL because of viewership. But I do think Faze is the better team all year. They're probably still the better team. So I think picking them in a 3-2 fashion is the right thing to do. So I'll move them on. But that's one thing to note is the team from winners final that goes to elimination final has won every single time this year. But that means we've got Ultra moving on versus Faze. Do you have any initial thoughts, or you want me to kind of kick things off in the final here?
You go ahead and kick us off for the final.
All right. Obviously, we've got the whole best of 9 thing instead of the double best of 5s, which I still think is stupid. That definitely helps Faze in this case if we have them coming from the loser side of things, because obviously they have the veto disadvantage. But to me, Faze and Ultra both have such deep map pools and are pretty much so good at every map except for APOC. I feel like Faze kind of sucks at APOC. But the map pool thing, I don't really think plays that much of a factor in this because I think both these teams can pretty much play every map and win it. And obviously, they've played plenty of times. It seems like every single time they play, it goes to deciding map 5, map 9, regardless of whatever it is. And there's not the whole momentum thing because the elimination final is played on Saturday, and the only match on Sunday is the grand final. So it's not like FaZe is coming in having played a match or two with a chance to have like a lot of rolling momentum. Oh man, it would be kind of a crazy storybook run if you pick FaZe though, the way we have them, because they go down in the elimination right away and then win 3 matches down there in order to make it. But I think it's the first ever time a European team wins champs. I think I'm gonna go Ultra. I think I want to say 5-4, which is obviously kind of a weird cop out answer, but I see a way where it's 5-3, but it just feels fitting that Ultra wins on a search and destroy like their bread and butter game mode. I think I want to go Ultra here.
Wow, that's really something. I mean, could you imagine how great that would be for the EU scene?
It would be
Uh,
fantastic. I think
e-
it'd be good for
e- e-
not the EU scene, just COD. I think it'd be great for
e-
COD.
Even though it's a North American geographically based team,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we can talk about that some other time. But yeah, oh man, this is so tough. I feel like grand finals. This is gonna be sometime. This is gonna be a match where we see some, weird bomb rotations, some weird strats. Like last year we had like Illy going to the back of Gunrunner with a sniper, like
Yeah.
sniping through the building. I don't know, just some weird stuff that nobody's seen. Uh, I don't know. I'm leaning to Faze in a 5-3. Um, but I definitely like we said, I can see a world where Ultra just they 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 really come through and win the day. I don't know how it's gonna be with this being the only match of the day. I feel like we might see some sloppy COD to start. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we might see some like you can only shoot bots for so long to get the gunny going, but like uh I feel like maybe the comms might not be all there for both teams. Uh and for that reason, I feel like FaZe might just have a little bit more raw skill to carry them. And that's kind of the
Huh.
reason, in part, why I'm taking FaZe to win this ring here.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously, I don't think you can go wrong picking either team here. You're kind of just basically going on a gut feeling and who brings their game that day. Because both sides, I mean, these are the teams that are 1 and 2 this year. I mean, the way we have our bracket working out, it's the 2 best teams of the whole year in the finals. It's so tough to pick either one. I'm willing to go with FaZe. I'm not going to save my bracket though, like I normally do, because we don't even know if Scump and Envoy are playing. So I'm gonna wait in case I have to change my predictions officially. But for the sake of, I mean, the podcast and everything, we're obviously gonna have this documented on what our official like podcast picks were. I think I'm willing to go FaZe with you though if you want to. And 5-3 is good with me. I just have this weird feeling that Ultra is gonna win it, but I'm willing to go 5-3. I'm gonna mark it down. 5-3 phases are winners because they probably are the smarter pick. There's just something about Ultra that like I feel like FaZe is they're a fundamentally sound team, but I feel like their talent a lot of times is the thing that wins them games. Where I also think people underrate Ultra's talent. They always talk about how good their teamwork is and how good they are at playing together, but like they're also just nasty. Like Cammy is a legitimate MVP candidate. Like I think you can make the argument he should be the MVP this year. Like Kleenex is nasty. Insight rookie of the year, he's nasty. And Vance also brings that leadership and he's nasty as well. Like this is a really good team that I think people kind of underrate their talent. Um, I think the storylines of an EU team winning champs also kind of helps because we've only pretty sure ever seen one EU team make finals. That was Black Ops 3. They ended up losing with Splice. Lost to Envy, but I don't know. Something about it tells me Ultra can win it, but I think we can mark down Faze 5-3 because that's probably overall the best pick. And once again, brings good storylines because we have them making a pretty crazy losers bracket run.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. This is so tough. Like I said, I could be swayed either way. Um, like you said, everybody on that Ultra team is so stinking good, and everybody on that FaZe team is so stinking good too. Um, at the end of the day, I know this is such a corny answer. I just want to see a really good grand finals. I feel like
Yeah.
last year's, it was online. It was a bad game, but it was still kind of a blowout. And
Yeah.
at the towards the end, we were kind of just like, just get it over with. Like,
Yeah. when
Let's
Faze won
just
that map when they were down like 4-0 or whatever. It was kind of like
hmm
just lose. Like we know you're gonna lose, but now hey, 4-0
yeah,
happened. So
and we're on a a relatively good competitive game. We're on
yeah,
LAN with fans. I'm all for a 3 hour 9 map grand final.
yeah,
It's one day. Give the people what they want.
yeah.
Um,
And the crazy thing is, typically coming into like a champs, you kind of have like your two favorites that you think one of them's gonna win. But I still think our champion might not even be in who we picked in the finals. I think OpTic might win. I think Minnesota might win. Hell, I even think Empire might win. The real champion might not even be in our finals. That's how deep uh, it seems to be at champs. With only 8 teams in there. But we got our bracket all finished out. We've got Faze 5-3. We're almost at the hour mark for the video, so I think that's a pretty good overall time. We kept it relatively short, but there's a couple more things we wanted to just quick talk about. Um, I'm just gonna go for the sake of like the video, maybe making it a little more interesting. Let's say I picked Ultra to win and you pick Faze to win. Who do you think is gonna be MVP? So yours obviously is gonna have to be on Faze, and mine would obviously have to be on Ultra.
I'm gonna go with who I think the MVP of the league should be, Tyler Abezy.
All right. I mean, if Faze wins, I think it's gonna be the same thing as who should be the MVP and who is gonna be. I think if Faze wins, I think Simp's gonna win MVP. Um, but I think I agree with you. Abezy should be. But I do think if Faze wins, they're probably gonna give it to Simp. And he'll be. Would that make him potentially? That might make him the only 2-time Champs MVP, unless Krim might have got it in Ghosts. Krim or Karma got it. Um, but that would make Simp one of only 2 at best to win 2 Champs MVPs. For the sake of my side, if I'm saying Ultra are winning, I think the MVP is going to be Cammy, just like he's really the MVP of their team this year. Um, Bance, I think, in terms of things you can't measure, like intangibles, is probably going to be the most valuable, like we always say. I think Kleenex is going to have too many little inconsistent moments, like he always does, to really be the MVP. Insight, obviously, probably is the second most likely to get it, but I think Cammy, like all the other pros say, like I saw Octane talking about it in a clip from one of his recent videos. Like Cammy is like the playmaker in the league. He's one of the only true like real flexes left with guys like Gunless, and I think he just makes insane plays. So I'm going Cammy for my MVP if Ultra ends up winning.
Yeah, I would agree. If that's the case, I would totally have to take Cammy.
All right. We got that. Last thing I think we wanted to do was well, we got 2 kind of real things. Quick, what do you think in terms of who do you think is like a dark horse team that you could see making like a top 3 run? Obviously like teams like Faze, OpTic, Ultra, even like Dallas, Minnesota. You could maybe throw Dallas in there since they're in round 1, but like teams like Faze, OpTic, Ultra, they're favorites. So not really considering the dark horses. More on the lines of like subliners, Thieves, Florida. Which team do you think has a chance to make that run to maybe find themselves top 4, top 3 when nobody's really expecting it?
I would have to say subliners, and that would really be if they just catch fire and play like they did in stage 3. Um,
Yeah,
that would really be the only scenario I could see subliners. I feel like saying Rocker is too much of a cop out. They just won the major.
yeah,
And there's really only a few teams you can list up there for like a true dark horse. Um,
yeah,
I, I
yeah.
would I would have to say subliners, and it would probably be because everyone on that team is playing like MVP caliber.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I think it's especially a good pick because they are of like the teams we probably would consider dark horse. They're the only team that has a cushion to lose a series because they're in winners. Where the other 2, like obviously main dark horse candidates are Florida and Thieves being the bottom 2 teams technically in the major. Um, I just don't think Florida has what it takes to make a deep run. Now that I say that, and with the way Florida is, we know that if they can get hot, they can beat anybody. So maybe they'll do that. But we just haven't seen it at all this year, unlike we did last year when they won a couple of tournaments. My dark horse team, especially to be different, I do think Subliners is good, but I'm going to go Thieves. Um, they have a tough road, obviously, because they have to play Empire or Rocker, the loser of that, and they got to play the loser of probably OpTic versus Faze. So it's a brutal route, but I'm just going to say for now, Thieves is my team that I think could make a run because obviously they've got a World Champs MVP in John Slasher, another champ, Kenny, a guy that's been to 2 champs grand finals, lost them both, but been to 2 finals. There's something to say about that. Draza, a young gun, obviously doesn't have too much experience, but we know he's nasty. I don't want to get too much more into my dark horse because it kind of might wrap a little bit into my like potential thing I could see happening at champs. So that's the next thing we want to get into. One potential like surprise thing you could see happening at champs, like that you think has a possibility of happening, but is probably pretty unlikely.
Being pretty unlikely would be Faze or Empire getting double first rounded. And that's something that, based on who they have to play, it's a potential. I mean, you have Faze having to play probably OpTic in Winners Run 2, and then you have Empire having to play that grueling first round match with Rocker, and then dropping down to play Thieves. You never know what can happen. But two teams that you could make a case for being obviously top 3, like having a top 3 placing, getting double first rounded, that would not be something I would be too shocked to see.
Yeah, I actually like really, really love that you said that because that ties into mine. I was actually gonna say I'm gonna take out the or in your statement, and I say like one unlikely thing I could see happening is Faze and Empire both getting double first rounded. I think there's a world where that happens because I'm picking Thieves as my dark horse, and I think Minnesota's gonna win that first match. So my really unlikely to happen but possible thing that could shock people, is Thieves knocking out both Empire and Faze and making them both get double first rounded. Like I said, don't think it's super likely, but in a world where we both think Dallas is losing to Minnesota, they go down, they play Thieves. Let's say Thieves win that match, which is maybe not super likely, but a possibility. All that has to happen is OpTic beating Faze and Faze getting down there and kind of losing full at their back in elimination, and Thieves having like a what can we lose mentality. And if they end up beating Faze, I don't know. We'll have to bookmark this back, but I think that's my unlikely thing that I could see happening, a world where Dallas and Faze both get double first rounded. Both teams that were in the finals last year are out by Friday.
Yeah, I mean, one other thing that I'll just say is like, I think in the first podcast we recorded together, I was predicting something with like positive test results and like players not being allowed to play, and I instantly started regretting it when the king and the prince both tested positive.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go down that route and say that we're not going to see anybody. That we're gonna have to see substitutes play in the world championship. So I'm not gonna say that. Scump and Envoy are both gonna be there. Mark that down.
I hope so.
There is not a reality that I want to be a part of where Seth Abner does not play at a champs.
Yeah, that's honestly my biggest hope for the weekend is every single starter is able to play and there's no issues, no COVID issues. Every starter's playing, because I don't care if I was the biggest OpTic fan in the world or the biggest Faze fan in the world or the biggest New York fan. It doesn't matter what team. I don't ever want to beat a team that's shorthanded. Like, it's not like sports where injuries happen and stuff. Like, this is like Call of Duty. Like, the player should be able to play every time. It's not like it's not like sports this year, like with the Bucks, where they played teams that had some injuries and people are like, oh, well, you played a team with an injury. Like, that's something that kind of happens in sports. A player in esports, like in Call of Duty, just being out with technically kind of like an injury thing that doesn't really happen. So like, it's not the same scenario as like a situation like sports where you just play who's in front of you. It's just a bad situation. And I don't want to see a single team, I like, even if it's like a team like Faze, I don't want to see them get knocked out because Simp can't play or something. Like, that's my biggest hope for the weekend. Everybody is playing. I don't want to see anybody shorthanded. Because not only does it ruin the fan experience, but it just overall leads to a bad weekend, and they'll have asterisks on everything forever if we get to the grand final and somebody can't play or something. So I just don't want to see that at all.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
But I think that'll probably wrap it up unless you have anything else you want to add, Kyle.
I have one just quick question.
All
Do
right.
you think subliners should split the winnings 5 ways and make Diamond Con whole?
Oh,
No matter how far they go.
That's
I
tough.
want a yes or no answer. Just, I mean, we don't have to discuss it for a long time, but they kind of they screwed him
They screwed
over,
him. They
for lack
screwed
of a
him
better
for
term.
sure.
So I mean, let's say they take home 100K. I don't even know if that's one of the payouts, but like, do they split that up 5 ways and everybody takes home 20, or
I don't
what
know
would
because
be
this kind
your
of happened
thoughts?
last year with Minnesota with the whole like who did they bench?
Dr. X.
Yeah, they benched GodRX for Exceed like right going into champs.
Yeah, but then they got double first rounded
Yeah,
there.
they did end up mattering, but people were talking about that. Does he like get anything? And they were going to give him, I believe, like a cut of it. I'll say, should they? Yes. Will they? I think no. I don't think they'll give him a cut of it, depending on how much they win. I think they should, but I don't think they will. I don't know. It's tough because it's not like he only like subbed in for a couple matches. Like he played like the first 2 or 3 stages.
Yeah, because they had trouble getting the visa and stuff. So I don't know. I just feel like I kind of stand Diamond Con here.
Oh yeah, I think he definitely should get paid, but I don't know if he does.
I don't know. I feel like there's a silent majority of people that want Diamond Con to get his cut.
Oh yeah, I
That's
mean, I'd be upset if I was him and I didn't, because I played so much of the year and I gave up my chance to play at Challengers Champs for you guys, and then I got screwed over and I'm not playing at either champs.
yeah. That was just something that came to mind. I think it was in a recent tack rap video. So that was just
Yeah,
my thought
that's an
there.
interesting topic. Yeah. All right, but I think that's gonna do it for this one. We got all our predictions in, got a couple little news topics and other kind of outside things to talk about. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe in this video. Obviously, if you guys enjoy our final predictions of the year, it'll be the last ones that happen until probably next February or March when the league finally kicks back off. Scary to think about that, but that'll probably be the next time this happens. We're recording this video on Sunday night. This will probably be uploaded like Monday or Tuesday before champs, and you guys are seeing this. So hopefully our talk about Scump and Envoy being question marks to play is already changed by then, and they've had negative tests, and we're all good to go. But that is going to do it for this one. The next video will obviously come out right after champs with a lot of probably reactions to that. I don't know if we'll cover anything else besides just talking about that, because it'll obviously be biggest tournament of the year, a lot to talk about. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.